Yeah. Always something new to discover in Rome.
Rome truly is. It's inexhaustible. That's my favorite image, is Chesterton uses the city of depths. There's this sense that the city is inexhaustible.
Yeah.
And it truly is.
Well, probably one of the reasons is because that the city was underground, so to say, in a way. You know, Christians lived underground for some time.
The original underground, the original subversives.
Yeah.
The ones who turned the world upside down, but by doing that, they turned the world right side up.
Right side up, yes. And also, in a way, Rome was buried for a long time. You know, they had to rediscover it in a way.
Buried treasure. So much of the archaeology, even in the 19th century and some of the early 20th century, certainly the Scavi under St. Peter's, that was happening just before and during the Second World War.
Yeah.
Some of the most remarkable archaeology was happening to rediscover what was forgotten.
And it's funny that almost everything that was in tradition, what people passed, you know, through the ages, it was actually, all of it was true.
It was verified, absolutely. Yeah. This is one of the great themes, isn't it? Even what was forgotten was proven to be true.
Sure. But you know what's one of the I think the saddest part, what I've discovered in Rome when I was at Tre Fontane. And you know why the three fountains, because the head fell 3 times. You know, Saint Paul's head, right? Fell 3 times. That's when the water sprang 3 times. Was it like that, right?
Some say it bounced, some say it rolled. Yeah. But it was on a hillside of sorts.
But now there is no water in it. I don't know if you know it, because they were in the 60s or something. They were digging.
There was a draining.
Yeah.
There was a draining of the swampland that was there, and they actually brought in eucalyptus trees from Australia, and that was one of the things that turned the soil. It was a very difficult place to live.
Yeah.
And the malaria and the bad air.
But if they don't have the water, at least they have the beer. No.
They do have a good Trappist beer. Yes. I'm partial to Norcia beer, but the Tre Fontane beer is great. And there's a wonderful story at Tre Fontane about the Seventh-day Adventist who was involved in a plot to assassinate the Pope. Okay. His name was Bruno, and he's the one whose children were playing with a ball. They remind me a little bit of your kids. And they were having a picnic lunch across the street from Tre Fontane. A lot of Protestants used to go to Tre Fontane because it was a place that wasn't too close to all the Catholic things in Rome. And obviously Paul was just this great figure, but the 2 children kicked a ball into the cave and disappeared, and then Bruno went in after them and realized that they were interacting with someone that he couldn't see. It was the Blessed Mother, who came as the Divine Revelation. I am the Mother of Divine Revelation. She was holding a Bible. As a reminder, she always comes to us as we can accept her, as we can receive her. So Bruno became a great defender of Our Lady. He had been a preacher against the church. He was a street tram operator. And it's a beautiful Marian shrine right next to the Tre Fontane Trappist Abbey.
I remember. I think I remember it. Yeah. I think I remember it. That's it. I didn't know about it. Which pope they were planning to assassinate?
Pius XI, actually.
Pius XI.
And when the dogma of the Assumption was proclaimed by Pius XII, that image was very important. He brought that image to the Vatican, to St. Peter's Square on the day of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, or the dogma of the Assumption in 1950.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Wow.
And of course, there was another famous Bruno, but that's another story.
That's
Didn't turn out so well for that.
What brings you to Rome, except before you were there, you were studying in Rome for how long?
You know, I lived in Rome for 5 years, but Rome is kind of home sweet Rome, Rome sweet home. There is something, it's part of our patrimony as Catholics. So as a priest, certainly it's a familiar place, and you can throw a rock and hit 5 priests. I don't recommend doing that, by the way.
Sure.
But I certainly feel as a Catholic, as a convert to the Catholic Church, that Rome is just a place where I discover my own family, my own traditions, my own home. So I was there from 2009 to 2014, but I've been given this great blessing of coming back on sabbatical to spend about 3.5 months in Rome and around Europe before I head back to my parish in the beginning of July in Minneapolis. But I've just loved the opportunity to be back in a city that's very familiar, But as we were talking about earlier, always has more.
Something.
You always discover more, and many new discoveries. I'm living right at St. Paul outside the walls, the tomb of the Apostle Paul. Another church, funny enough, that's very beloved to Protestants. They like visiting St. Paul. They don't like St. Peter as much. I
wonder why.
But one of the great things that the church has always done is held these two saints together, Peter and Paul, as the great twins of the twin apostles.
Their feast days. They have a
one common
joint feast day.
Yeah. And I'll be staying for the Feast of Peter and Paul, then I head home on the 30th. So I can't wait to be in Rome once again for the Pallium, the great celebration with all the new archbishops of the world will come to receive their Pallium from Pope Leo. But I'm really excited to be able to celebrate that wonderful Roman feast, the twin feast day of the new founders, Romulus and Remus.
Twin feast day. You're from the Twin Cities,
So funny enough, my city is Minneapolis, but Minneapolis...
Saint Paul, Minneapolis. Right?
Well, my city is Minneapolis, but it used to be called St. Anthony.
Really?
And St. Paul used to be called Pig's Eye. So that just shows that places don't always keep the same name. So Pig's Eye and St. Anthony.
I don't know about Europe, but I don't know about America, but in Europe, I think they're pretty much a constant, the names.
Well, these were names that were associated with very small villages or landings on the river. The Mississippi River is great. Yeah. We think of the river as commerce and things, but it really was transportation. It was the highway into that area. You come in on ships was always going to be easier than bushwhacking through the jungle, as it were. So
in those days,
I was raised in St. Paul, but I've been in Minneapolis for 9 years, so I've become more or less a citizen of Minneapolis. Although my heart is still partially left behind in St. Paul.
Sure.
But I've really loved to learn about the Catholic history of Minneapolis. And I'm kind of at the epicenter of that neighborhood in a place called Northeast. We like to call it Northeast.
What would you say? Did it, and in which way did your experience or your coming to Rome, how did it change, or how did it influence your perspective on your hometown, on your vocation, what you're going to do? Yeah. How did it change? Did it change?
It certainly has. I often have had that mindset that Chesterton talks a little bit about at the beginning of Orthodoxy, about kind of going to a homeland, seeing it as if it was something strange, something that you've never seen before. And I think part of my experience in Rome was really preparing to do that in my own home. I always understood a sense of a call to mission and to be a missionary. I think that in our day we live in a missionary age. But I've been really struck by the fact that I think St. Paul, the man St. Paul, the apostle, really has always, his patronage of the place, I think that's very profound. Certainly in Europe, throw a rock and you hit 10 saints. We don't have nearly as many saints, but that idea that a city could bear his name, it really ties to even the first priest who came in that area and wanted to name his chapel for St. Paul and effectively give that name to the whole area. It was really striking because of the zeal of St. Paul that really sent him out on that mission to the ends of the earth. And even though Paul's mission ended in Rome, my mission started in Rome and it ended back in the place that was home for me. So I think Rome has always been evocative of where you get ready for mission. I think especially of the English martyrs that went as young men to the continent, some to Spain and into Belgium, the Low Countries, but also some to Rome. And the one seminary in Rome that's called the Venerable College is the English college, the Seminary of Martyrs. There have been many martyrs that were trained in Rome. I studied at the Gregorian University. One of the students in the very chairs that we sat in was Maximilian Kolbe. Only during my time did they actually change the benches. And some of those chairs, I know a Jesuit priest who was able to get a section of 3 or 4 chairs from the university.
Because they're all saints sitting there.
They're all torture devices, yeah. Wow. Yeah, if you weren't a saint when you started, you were a saint by the time you were done. So when they give you your baccalaureate in sacred theology, you get a little ST in front of your name as well. So at least potential, right? Yeah. We're all called to be saints.
Sure.
So I think for me, being in Rome that first time for that extended period was really formative to kind of inhabit and to discover the depth of that Roman environment, the atmosphere. But I think it really prepared me to come back, especially now where I'm in the city. I've been 9 years as a parish priest in the city.
So you're near to the center?
Yeah, I'm across the river from the downtown. I'm actually on the Saint Paul side of the river. Funny enough, there's two cities are on two sides of the river, but there's part of Minneapolis on the east bank. Yeah. And so I'm in that part of neighborhood, so I don't need to cross the river to go to Saint Paul. So it's the best part of Minneapolis. It's kind of the best of both worlds. But I think for me, there's been that discovery of those traditions that I learned about, and especially being in a more dense and more cultural environment. We're in the arts district in Minneapolis, and so it's been a really beautiful way to think about those lessons that I learned about urban Catholicism and the need to renew the city, that we can't leave the city to someone else. We have to kind of show up and participate in the life of the city. That's how it gets renewed.
You mentioned that we should become, or that we are a missionary church, or as John Paul II said, like this, mentioned this need for new evangelization. We've talked earlier about Thomas Halleck and his concept of the afternoon of Christianity, of the church. There are, I would say it's the same thing, but maybe different emphasis on different things. But let's say we recognize that we have a need to go out, basically to go out and to share what we've encountered profoundly. What would you say that is the in your parish concretely? You mentioned the art district, and you're in the downtown. What would you say is the specific challenge or two challenges?
Well, I could come up with
which you encounter like almost daily.
Many more than two.
Yeah, of course.
Many are the challenges of a parish priest, and but they're all exciting. Those
especially
challenges.
As a Catholic priest in how many Catholics are in Minneapolis?
We have a vibrant but small and beleaguered community, both aging but also new elements and new converts, but also new immigrant communities as well. So it's kind of there's a whole variety of things going on. You know, actually, the very first thing that comes to mind, I love Croatia and what I've discovered in Croatia. But one of the treasures that I've discovered in the parish where I am, it's called Holy Cross, is the name of the parish. We take care of 3 churches within that parish. But one of the treasures that I've discovered has been the Polish traditions. I'm in a ethnically Polish, we used to call it the Polish Quarter, although there were other Eastern Europeans, and there's actually churches that they've all left, the Slovaks and the Ukrainians, and the Polish built 3 churches, the Italians, the Lebanese, and then a few other, there was a German church and a French church and a few other ethnic churches. So very dense, we call it the Epcot Center, like at Disney, there's the Epcot Center, that's kind of this global experience. But the Poles have taught me in a very specific way. One, they're very stubborn and sort of committed in that very tenacious way. They're unwilling to compromise and give up what they believe. And obviously their story tells of that kind of suffering. What I've really loved about, this is partly a challenge, we live in such a kind of vapid and beige moment where there's a kind of monoculture that's taking over. A lot of it is driven by technology and prosperity and social media, where you go everywhere and people are thinking about the same things and listening to the same music. I've loved that the Poles have really emphasized in teaching the faith, they don't just teach the faith, that is the catechism and the doctrines of the faith. They teach the whole embodied faith, which is within the culture of literature, poetry, language, music, food, and in the cuisine. So there is this attempt to share that tradition. Now, for the young Poles, this is difficult because many of them feel like if they hold on to their Polishness, they're going to be left behind. They want to be American. But I love the immigrant community because it's taught me about how we need to teach Catholicism as that embodiment of culture. The literature, the poetry, the music, the traditions, the cuisine of what makes our faith beautiful and rich and glorious. America certainly is an immigrant church. It always has been. And we see how in many places, almost every part of the world, Catholicism is an immigrant reality to some degree. You certainly have different makeups. But I think for us, there are those early immigrants, and now there are new immigrants. We have some of those historic uses of the churches that I mentioned have now become new. The German National Church is now a French West African parish. The Italian Church is now a deaf community. They both speak with their hands, nice. So that works very well. Funny enough, the Bohemian or Czech parish, St. Cyril Methodius, is now Ecuadorian. So there's that repurposing in the church. There's always these new expressions. So I think some of it for me is how little people expect the faith to be. We were even talking about curriculum, and we tell people that Christianity can fit into this very small sort of compartment, but the faith has implications in every aspect of life, every discipline. And so I think that's really been a motivation for me, is to learn from my brothers and sisters of the Polish community how to inculcate and share the faith in that fuller cultural expression. So that's both a challenge, but I think it's been a real desire and delight. We've also really struggled with the geography of the parish. So much of the city, today we walked, and I've used the tram here in Zagreb. Unfortunately, the dependence on the car has driven communities apart. And so one of my goals has been to relocalize the parish, actually help people to buy houses and move into the neighborhood. We need that kind of localism where people can live a life centered and gathered around authentic community. And we're starting to see a lot of real estate interest, both purchasing houses, desires to sell houses. A number of American parishes are now starting to list real estate listings internally within a parish, so as to make those houses available first to people within the parish community. Wow. I think it's a genius way that we're trying to renew and regather the life of a parish. I live in a very secular city. Minneapolis is, among the most secular cities in the world, and yet there is a very vibrant subculture, counterculture. And as Pope Benedict would say, never despise those small creative minorities, because they have the power to change the world.
Yeah, that's true. Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth.
Light of the world. No, that's reserved for our Lord, the light of the world. But salt of the earth, the what do you put in bread? The yeast, yeah. But that's
the leaven, yeah.
Yeah, the leaven. That's the yeast is not.
It's a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, true. When you contemplate those ideas, when you bring them to not just in an abstract level, but in a concrete level, it really becomes something really, really strong. But I like this idea of, as I understand what you do and what the church does, is, in a very concrete way to bring people together, at, so to say, in one space.
Yeah.
And in a way, in that way to rebuild the culture,
right,
from the grounds up. It's not that something comes just from the above, or it is purely from above, or it is imposed in any way, but it's almost like a grassroots movement. I dare to say
there is a deep hunger for this and need for it, and even in these neighborhoods which were once very thoroughly Catholic. The part of Minneapolis I live in was almost exclusively Catholic. There are very few Protestant churches left as a kind of sign. Almost all the Protestant churches, by the way, have changed. They have different ownership or different denominations. The Catholic churches have persisted. It's kind of a beautiful thing about the staying power of Catholicism. But it's become a very lonely neighborhood in terms of faith, because people live in these islands, isolated among these very secular pagans. Now, there's some beautiful evangelistic things happening as people are getting to know their neighbors and inviting them to come to know the church. And we've had actually recently a beautiful, unexpected emergence of a whole group of hairstylists that are becoming Catholic or coming back to their Catholic roots. They all knew each other from beauty school and these different things, but there's been a beautiful kind of what I would call a groundswell of beauticians and hairstylists, and they're people who spend their entire day with other people, talking with other people, and some of this group are all women. Some of these people are remarkable because they are true evangelists, and they've got this captive audience literally under scissors. they've got somebody that's there listening. I think it's a beautiful thing to realize the impact, as you said about leaven. Christians in the city can transform, and I know we're just recording this conversation just as we're getting ready for Pentecost, but I love that theme of we need to remain in the city until we receive the power to bear witness, and that kind of ascension Pentecost theme of staying in a place, waiting for the outpouring of something. That's the true sense of something from above. We need the catalyst which is given to us, the fire of the Holy Spirit. So.
What would you say is the... how to say this? What would you say is the... in preferably one longer sentence is the is the definition of Catholicism, but in this context that why it recognizes in different cultures what is good. I have actually answered the question, but what is it in its Catholicism that finds, unites, and brings something forth? What would you say? What would that be?
Your question is very multi-parted and nuanced, which is great, and it certainly calls for a Ciceronian response. One sentence that could maybe fill beyond a page. Yes. Newman, I think, was capable of very long sentences like that as well. By the way, I'm glad that Newman's finally a doctor of the Church. The English language has just moved up one notch.
Oh yes,
in the global comparison of languages. I think that the Church. Chesterton is totally understanding of this. The Church really is the home for the human spirit. It's the way that we learn to be at home in the world, but not completely at home, homesick at home. And the way that we understand that there is this kind of pilgrimage of life, that there's a sojourn here, which is good. And we have to hold it lightly, because if we hold it too firmly, it'll destroy it. And will ruin and not understand that we're actually headed somewhere else. You know, it's a little cliche to speak of life as a journey, but I think, Chesterton has a great line as he ends his study of Dickens, which is really about heaven, where he says, the inn doesn't point to the road, but the road points to the inn to which all of us will arrive. And so there's this sense where there's a travelingness to life, but it's oriented towards a final port of call or destination. The Salve Regina has that same sense. After this, our exile, show unto us. So there's a kind of invitation into a homecoming. We obviously have to make as good a use of this world as we can. And it's not meant to be sort of intolerable. It's meant to really be beautiful and rich and life-giving, but it's also meant to be very limited. And this is the reality of death, isn't it? That we realize it just doesn't last. It's that kind of confine, that veil that's woven over all nations, and yet God intends to do something more. So I think the Church really is embodying that, how to live well in the world, which is so broken, and so many people thinking that this world is all there is, can't live well in it at all. And so I think we have something to really teach about how to hold the world lightly and not sort of destroy it by trying to hold on to it, squeeze the life out of it.
Yeah. I think Chesterton, he's talking about the inn at the end of the he names
inn at the end of the world.
Yeah, the inn at the end of the world. That's the name of the inn. But I was actually discussing a month ago, or more or less, about this concept. What is the world? What is world? We are from the world, but not of the world. I came to the world, but the world didn't recognize me. But Chesterton says that we still live in the garden.
It's only
the
our
world is the garden. So I think in a way that this still is. It still is, and there's also something in the ideologies of the 20th century. They wanted to create the paradise on earth, but it was impossible. But I think there is something in the idea of to transform the world. But I think that's the, you know, it's not disconnected from God, you know, the world, but it has to be somehow not by humans themselves, but somehow to be transformed, you know. There's
an absolute need. We can't save ourselves, and there's a need for some initiative from outside. And one of my favorite things that Chesterton does over and over, but there's a wonderful play he wrote called The Surprise, which is the idea that God has to come in and intervene. So this image of God coming down, it happens at the Tower of Babel, of course. The Lord comes down to see what they've done. And even as we ruin the world, the Lord comes down to restore it and set it right. So I think that image of, we don't have what it will take to save ourselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, as high as we can reach with our human ingenuity and wisdom, it's not high enough to save ourselves.
I was actually discussing with my wife, talking. We tend to talk a lot about philosophical things and this and that.
Good things to talk about.
That's true.
In the home,
definitely. Yeah. And we were talking about how we, especially in Croatia, we noticed this. It's not even more. It's not a trend even. It became like a part of either when you are a Catholic or when you become a Catholic. You know, we call him somebody converted, but it's basically you say reverted.
Sure.
You know, that's you have to like It's not like in the States, as you said. Every culture brings their own culture, their own good things. As you said, everything that's good in that culture, and it just becomes the part of the church.
Right.
I have here a book by I think it's by. Somewhere here.
That's why you wanted to sit there so you can keep an eye on your books, so I don't steal any.
I don't know. It's the Lubac, or is it? I think it's the Lubac. He wrote a book. Truth is symphonic, something like that. Istina je simfonična for the.
I believe you.
I don't know. So basically, let's say that the church is like a great polyphonic composition.
That I like.
You know.
Yeah.
Everything is connected. So basically different orders. You know, you have orders that you have the far right and the far left, so to say, in the church, and they all fit together. You know, perfectly. Nothing happens. They're all fine. They're all orthodox, but still they are different. But what I noticed in Croatia is, like when you become a Catholic, you become like a very specific kind of a Catholic. You know, there's nothing outside of that. Like that we on one side that we have to conform to some very specific picture of what a Catholic is, and on the other side that sad to say, but very often that you have to renounce a lot of good things, not just good things from the world, but good things like typical human things, you know. So, for example, I always liked that. I heard it's a legend, but I don't think it's a legend. When Saint Ignatius of Loyola visited Saint Philip Neri, and when Saint Philip Neri wanted to test Saint Ignatius, if he's a true Catholic, if he's a saint, as they say, and he puts a bottle of wine on the table, you know, to see if Saint Ignatius will drink wine, you know, because he was a very strict guy, military. He had a military training, you know. If he can take the wine, that means that he's humble, that he's going to, you know, even if he doesn't drink, because of I don't know some disciplinary reasons, but at least, you know, because he respects the host, and he respects the friendship, and the wine is not bad in itself, you know. And so he tested him, and he sipped him a little bit of wine in the glass, and he drank, you know. Saint Ignatius drank the wine. He passed the test. Yes, he passed the test of what a Catholic means, you know. So I think that I have this feeling. There's only one Croatian guy here, so I'm not sure if he wants to join me on this and to discuss about this. But that's why I feel that people do tend to renounce what good things are, you know, in this world. Play games, drink beer, I don't know, laugh out loud, I don't know, you know, watch television just to watch it, you know, those kind of things, you know, that makes, as Chesterton would said, they are a little bit like spice of life, you know.
Yeah, I love that. There are actually 2 Croatian guys here. There's only 1 American. But Chesterton will break the tie in the middle.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, so
I love that image.
You know, but that actually makes me sad because the Catholic faith is so creative, you know, and it makes everything better in life, you know. Mm-hmm. It makes everything better and it puts everything in the right place, and it how to say it comes together and points you towards something that's
convergent. Yeah,
convergent.
One of the great themes of Chesterton's writing about the church, I studied ecclesiology, and I think Chesterton is one of the great ecclesiologists in the tradition.
I think he will be a church father one day.
I think he is, so, yeah. He's actually compared to the church fathers by some of his Italian contacts. Emilio Cecchi, that I wrote my Tessina on, really focused on Chesterton as like a bishop, like a church father. The Catholic Church in Conversion is one of my favorite books. Oh, yeah. It's a little book.
Yeah,
and Belloc wrote an introduction. I'm going to be speaking at Chest Fest, and I'm going to draw a lot from the Catholic Church in Conversion, which has always been one of my favorite places to really see Chesterton understand the kind of the paradox of the church, yes. the optical illusion of the church.
It's much bigger from the inside than it is on the outside.
And that's an image he uses about the home as well. So the domestic is very much, the domestic church is paradoxical in the same way that the church with a capital C is paradoxical, because there is a dignity and fullness. And I'm experiencing that in your home here today. I'm glad that the noise level quieted down a little as the little ones went out to the park.
They were just excited that you are here.
They were very excited.
A big black guy with a beard. With speaking language that's, well, my son loves the Beatles, but so he's a little bit familiar with English. But
yeah, we didn't put the Beatles on yet. Maybe we can do that when he comes back.
Yeah. Hey Jude.
I was interested in this question of kind of the totalitarian attempts to make this world, or to kind of convince ourselves that this world can be perfected and we could ever be sort of happy here. It's an interesting thing in the literature on kind of utopia and also dystopia. 1984 in George Orwell, and a beautiful connection with the Napoleon of Notting Hill. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yes, that's
connection
actually,
between those two books.
So, I would say that I've converted. After the third time I read Chesterton, you know, it was like I had 3 phases. The first phase was when I first discovered Chesterton, and it was by reading Michael O'Brien's essay on Chesterton. It was translated into Croatian in a magazine called Me. It was like intellectuals, Croatian intellectuals that had their own magazine. It's also a society that still exists, but they had translated Michael O'Brien's essay on Chesterton. So I read it, and I just started to my studies into philosophy at the Jesuit faculty of philosophy, and I was searching for thinkers who were, you know, inspired by their faith. You know, had an I will call it like a Catholic experience or a Christian experience. They had experience of faith,
right? And
they were thinking from that experience, not from like it's not the other way around, that they've like pushed the Catholic content into their thinking. But I was looking for those kind of people, and I, you know, just wow. So I found 2 translations back then. One was the Orthodoxy, and the second was the Everlasting Man. So I bought both of the books. I read it, but that was it. It was, you know, I read the books. The second time was when I met my best friend, my best man, Ivo. He was I met him in 2013. The first time I read Chesterton was in 2008. He was in 2013. He was already a fanatic. He was a Chesterton fanatic, and he started a blog. He was in process of translating he was making a new translation of Orthodoxy, and he was in Trinidad, and he wanted to start a club, a society, like a literature club to read Chesterton and his work. So I joined him, and he was afraid if it's going to work and this and that. But
do not be afraid, you said.
But he started, and we the first thing that we did was reading Orthodoxy. So I was interested again, It was like a renewed interest. The third time was 2 or 3 years after that, when I was working at the Catholic television station. I was translating Dale's show, The Apostle of Common Sense. And simultaneously, I took charge of the society, of our club. And the first book that I've chose that we read was The Napoleon of Notting Hill. And those two things just combined, the Dale's show, and the reading of Napoleon of Notting Hill. It was like literally, I felt like I'm on fire, like I'm bursting in flames.
Pentecost.
No, it really was. And I after that, a year after that or two, when Canon John Udris was still making his research, I sent him a large letter. I've explained all of this, and I described how I experienced, what was the experience, and I think he included in some lecture he had, and I think he included that. But Napoleon of Notting Hill was basically, yeah. We were talking about all of these challenges that the faith has, and the totalitarian attempts to make this world perfect. But I think the Napoleon of Notting Hill is still prophetic, because he says I would say it combines the utopian and dystopian literature until that year, 1904. But he says that nothing is going to get worse, so to say. Everybody's going to be bored.
Right.
There's going to be like, what's the word? Not just bored, but people that are not interested in anything. They are just like plain flat.
Sounds like a lot of today.
Yeah, and with the AI and
right.
The artificial intelligence, with all of these tools, basically
they'll lose their motivation. They'll lose their drive to live.
What are they going to do? What are we going to do? And I think that the machines won't rebel against us. I think we were just going to be bored, not know what to do, but that we're going to just rebel against them or rebel against ourselves, and
Yeah, it's interesting that boredom doesn't even exist as a word in the language until 20th century. It's a kind of, Pascal, and there's this diversion and this need to we could never sit alone in quiet.
But I think it's a paradoxical. There's a paradox in boredom,
There is.
On one side, it could destroy a man, You don't know what to do, or you are, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do with yourself, and it eats your life in a way. But on the other side, if everything is planned, if we know what we are going to do in every moment, we lose that otium, the leisure, that kind of boredom.
Yeah.
When we are actually opened. When we are in possibility to be creative.
I think there's so many good themes there that opens up a whole multitude of avenues around Sunday and Sabbath. And I'm on a sabbatical right now, which is really connected to the Sabbath, learning how to rest well and do leisure well. Leisure, the basis of culture. And play. I wish actually I had followed your kids outside to the park and kicked a ball. What a wonderful thing to be able to delight in something as simple as that.
Yes.
True recreation that recreates. Yes. I guess it was striking to me, just that theme of, Chesterton's What I Found in My Pocket is a great example of the world of wonder that's opened up precisely when we don't have something to do.
Yes.
The best thing you could ever do for yourself on an outing would be to forget your phone and forget your book and forget whatever you think is a pastime, and then be forced to look within your own pockets or your own heart to reflect and consider how to live life in a meaningful way. That one essay, and many essays like it, another one that comes to mind is On Running After One's Hat, where he looks at the setbacks and inconveniences as these invitations into adventure.
Yes.
It's an invitational living. Chesterton lives by example and invites us to live like he lives. Yeah. This is the greatness of his writing. But I think you're right about boredom, that it certainly, we need to leave that space for a return to kind of simple delights, the simple human things. I loved going down memory lane, looking at your collection of CDs here, kind of overlapping childhoods and just thinking about ways that different music was meaningful at different moments.
You grew up in the 90s, I presume?
I grew up in the 90s, I certainly...
Still the analog times, you know?
Right.
We still remember those times.
Right. The way things were, so... Yeah, I'm coming to the end of another decade this year, so... I did speak at a Chesterton conference a few years ago about the importance of celebrating birthdays. So I'm going to be 40 years old.
Oh, nice.
I'm planning to celebrate, maybe not as big as as in Hobbiton, but I'm gonna celebrate with some gusto.
Oh, really?
Because I think birthdays need to be celebrated, especially 40 years.
Why?
Well, I think there's a kind of false modesty. It's interesting that Origen said that the only people in Scripture that celebrate their birthdays are, the pharaohs and Herod and things, but there's actually something really wholesome about a birthday is an affirmation that it's good to be alive. And I think if we forget that, we spend a lot of our lives wishing we were older than we are, and then a lot of our lives pretending we're younger. And so
there's a famous quote at the end of I think it's one of the last episodes of The Office.
It all comes back to The Office. If not Chesterton, The Office.
I agree.
In this house, at least.
So one of the main characters, Andy Bernard, says that how he had a good times in the office and this and that, and now he's leaving for a new job, and he says, "Is there a way that we know that we have the good times when they actually when we are actually in the good times, Because actually we talk about good times when they are, when they are far behind us, we pass those times. But is there a way to know that we are in the good times when we are in the good times? I think that's
It's fundamental, and I think Chesterton makes really consistent invitations down that path to not sort of. I talk a lot about living for thresholds. We'll start living a path to holiness when we get to this threshold, when we graduate university, or when we're ordained a priest, or when this next thing happens. But it begins now.
Yeah.
It begins, as we get rolled out of bed this morning. It begins as we choose in this moment and this day to live for something more. So I think that invitational living, I think this is one of the greatest things the church can offer the world, is a way back to sanity, a way back to holiness, a way back to living a fully human life.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right.
We've talked earlier this afternoon about it just flew out of my mind. But we talked
calamari?
about. No, it was not the calamari. Yeah, but that was a nice experience, local experience of this neighborhood, Trešnjevka, the best neighborhood in
Friday
Croatia.
abstinence, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, but we talked about. Now it just flew out of my mind, but it was connected with this. Yes, you said how when you were just entering your 25th, you were almost celebrating your 25th birthday, and you are a big fan of Pier Giorgio Frassati, and he died when he was 24, right?
Right.
And you said how when you, I will paraphrase it, when you woke up on your 25th birthday, and where am I? He was a saint by that time. He didn't reach that age.
Right.
Something similar, I connect this with Saint Francis of Assisi when he was also, I think, on his he was dying. I don't know if he was at his deathbed, but he was dying. And he told to his brothers, we didn't do anything. There's so much work to do still, you know, like love was not, how does it say it? Or is it some other saint? Or is it Saint Anthony?
Love is not loved.
Is it Saint Francis or Saint Anthony, maybe?
I think it is Saint Francis, actually.
Probably, yeah.
Love is
not loved. I mean, when you think of it and when you think about it, and when we again contextualize ourselves, you know, as in we are embodied somewhere. Yeah. We are not, you know, we are not saints in 10 years. You know, it's here, you know, and this is the only opportunity. So
better today than tomorrow.
Yeah.
There is the swiftness and the need. We didn't stop there, but you pointed out carpe diem.
Yeah.
And that whole sense of kind of the kind of momentousness of each moment to choose. Jose Maria Escrivá had that sense of the heroic moment of waking up in the morning. Yeah. I will say during sabbatical I've been sleeping in a little more than I normally do, but I have been thinking about the heroic moment. I'm full of contradictions.
Paradoxes. I like to stay up late. You know, because there's something in the night when everybody is asleep and everything is quiet, especially in the countryside. But then again, I like to wake up very, very early.
Right.
And on the other hand, I like to go to bed just let me go to bed at 8 p.m. And then I like to sleep at, until 8, 9. So, but when I love to sleep, but I always, when somebody asks me or tells me, you're sleeping late, blah, 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 you're not a good person, I always remember Tolkien. He was always staying up late and he was sleeping until 9 p.m. 9 a.m. or something like that. So
there you go. You've got you found a model who validates what you do.
Exactly.
I love
exactly.
I love that. That just reminds me of that Chesterton line that misers get up early, but thieves get up the night before.
Oh yes. And you can always, I was thinking about that picture. There's this trend. It's called. It's not a drudge, to always put in some big effort, wake up even earlier than early or something like that, But in the end, if you're, 100% your brain working and you're constantly growing, I think it's actually connected with this culture. So let's call it a culture of modern living, to work and to work, exercise, being productive, yes. Then if you go to bed at 1 a.m. and you wake up at 4 a.m, because you're proving something like that. With that, then I think a good question would be, why go to sleep?
Take it to its ultimate extreme.
Yeah, just go, I don't know, plug yourself on something and just...
I've been around people that don't sleep at all and they're not much fun to be around. So I think we might see it in the lives of the saints, but there are certain things we ought not imitate the saints about. Like John Vianney, his diet was not a good thing to imitate, rotten potatoes, but also his sleep schedule. Yeah. There is a value, and I think we're discovering maybe more about what more fully human habits and realities. Yeah. Habit and virtue, those are really the same thing. I think it's really kind of neat to see a lot of natural rediscovery of things around good food, fully living human lives, but also things like sleep hygiene. Sure. I think there's a lot of value. Chesterton, of course, loved his time in bed. I saw your coffee mug. The sun rises every morning. I do not rise every morning.
That's a perfect.
And then, of course, he talks about if there's something that can get him out of bed 5 minutes before he needs to get up, there's really something in it. And he was deeply motivated by getting to Mass on Sundays and holy days in a way that he had not been committed as an Anglican. He was not known for church going, particularly as an Anglican, but the testimony is that he really did not miss Sundays and holy days. And he often grumbled as he was making his way, but he was motivated. And I think the church is always going to push us and call us and prod us.
Yeah.
But the Lord also, there's a psalm, he pours gifts on his beloved while they slumber. So God can give us graces. Even the apostles slept in the garden, and yet we're given that grace to return to the risen Lord. So I think sleep is one of those things that we can't save ourselves. I see the sleeping Joseph back here, and it's a great reminder that at the end of our day, we just need to put everything into the Lord's care and say, you take care of it, I'm going to bed.
True. That's well said.
I think especially as a father in a family, a lot of people look at Joseph in art and they see him sleeping a lot, but it's because he was up early and staying up late. He took a nap when he could because he was in caring for the family and guiding them, out of danger into Egypt and then bringing them back. And I think when you see Joseph sleeping, it's not because he's lazy or a slouch. It's because he's been keeping vigil for the family to be able to sleep.
Sure,
at other times. So I think that's another beautiful theme. You know well, as a father, you probably don't sleep as much as you'd like to sleep.
That's true. But I do get, from time to time, I sneak where nobody sees me.
Cat naps.
Yeah. I like that. But yeah. But it's, I think those basic human things, we really need to rediscover it in a way, because if we forget, that's one of the things that Chesterton actually says, that humans survived all these different political what's the name of them, political ideas and this type of state, that kind of state,
sure.
This and that, because they always knew the value of common human things, getting together, having a meal together, and going out and play, But as soon as the moment we forget how to do those things, we are in danger of basically,
losing our humanity, losing touch with.
Yeah. And then there, I think he also says, he adds, then we will not be able to, not be able to be like a corrective to the state, to whoever is in the government, but also we will not be able to revolt in a way, to overthrow the tyrant and bring forth the good things.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he says that actually.
Takes me back a little bit to our conversation about the Napoleon in Notting Hill. For you living here in this city, what are your motivations that come out of that novel about how to think about your life in the city of Zagreb, and just kind of as you think about your community of people around you and your family and your friends?
Well, I would say I love the city. I really love Zagreb. I lived here now for 20 years. I came here as a student, to study philosophy. But I was always connected with my hometown. Almost every weekend I was there, and during the summer I was there. It's like a small city, and everything is chill. There's no rush. So I like the city. But what keeps me here is, I think, I'm a philosophy professor, and I think there's just need for that in where am I currently,
Yeah.
And all the things that we do with our Chesterton Club and other things that are connected with the Chesterton Club. It's like this is the center to be able to do that, center from which everything springs, goes like it's the core, and then it spreads out,
Right.
So I think that's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a need. I'm needed here.
Yeah.
It's that I have to be here for some reason. I cannot go, where I would like to go, and live the life I would like to live in.
There's a responsibility that remain in the city. There's a duty to the city and to stay, even though it's difficult. It's interesting about the history of Christianity that the cities were really massively important for the spread of Christianity.
Yeah.
Look at where Paul is really doing his ministry. It's in the cities. And even the word pagan is a word that reminds us of those who live in the country, because there was a slower path. Ultimately, monasticism would be necessary to really truly Christianize the more rural populations. But it's a really remarkable thing that for us, I think there is something about city life that might be harder, but it's necessary that Catholics do it and do it well.
Yeah.
And to I think about a place belongs to the people who show up.
Yeah.
Who's elected as local politicians? Well, the ones that run. And who runs but the people who are paying attention and desiring to serve. So we often critique the fact that someone else is making the decisions, but when's the last time that I stepped forward?
Yes.
And I love the kind of initiative that the Napoleon in Notting Hill represents, to just sort of take up arms and to stay engaged. There was actually a moment in my neighborhood, Northeast, where the freeway was planned through. So it was a kind of Napoleon in Notting Hill moment. And where did they start the neighborhood advocacy meetings? They were in church basements. So never despise what can come out of a church basement of people of faith that are gathering. Knights of Columbus is a wonderful organization founded in church basements, but this power that flows from realizing that we need to both organize, but we need to kind of work in concert together. I think that's a beautiful theme. That novel is just
Have
rich
you watched
in that.
It's also reminds me very much of a movie, a classic movie, on the waterfront. Have you watched it?
I am familiar with that. Down in Boston on the...
No, in New York.
That's in New York. Okay, on the waterfront. Yeah, sure.
Yes, it's also, there's a...
wonderful,
a priest who...
Right.
Well, he was called out, that he's only in his parish, in his church, and he does not do anything. So he went to the waterfront, to the docks, and basically he helped people to listen to their conscience and to confront the mobsters who were in charge of their lives and everything. So
look out!
It's very similar.
That reminds me a little bit of.
I love that movie. So
Jerzy Popłuszko as well, and his work in Warsaw.
Yep.
Just to be in a parish and in a milieu, but to see that priestly dynamism and leadership unfolding is great. That's great, and it's interesting. A lot of these struggles for local control, localism. Chesterton gave rise to many of them in even unexpected places. Michael Collins is an example of someone who was inspired by the Napoleon in Notting Hill, but also Mahatma Gandhi, inspired to fight for Indian independence. And I think it's just beautiful when we learn that we can fight for what is local and what we love. I was struck as you walked me around Zagreb, your own pride for the city. You explained that you weren't originally from here, but you've come to know and love the city and the traditions. I today went to the Zagreb City Museum, and I loved understanding the rich variety and complexity of what has made this city unique for centuries and centuries and centuries. And it was really beautiful. That museum is a great celebration of the rich multiplicity and complexity of the city. And it tells a great story that I think a lot of people forget. I was struck by the lay dimension, especially the confraternities and the guilds and things that were so much a part of the structure and leadership of the city. It wasn't just a theocracy. There was this incredible and various tensions between the parts of the city. But I think a beautiful microcosm of what, as we start thinking about a kind of municipal patriotism. That's a line out of the Napoleon in Notting Hill that I've always loved. It's the hope of the nation. We have to have a local patriotism. It's very hard even the modern nations as we think about them are late constructs, like the Italian nation. Yeah. The Italian nation's too big really to be in love with. There's a need for something more particular, more concrete, more local. The region, the town. I think that's something really special. I think about my diocese. That's a scale that I can serve and live in. And that's one of the exhilarating things about giving oneself as a priest to a geographical area. I know where I belong. I travel but I always come home and I know my true center in that sense.
That's very, how to say it? We come to the beginning, you know, that all the roads lead to the end, you know, the end at the end of the world. So, home, Rome, sweet home, right? Yeah, did I say it right? Rome, sweet home?
I think you got it right.
Yeah, I think. Or we can say home, sweet Rome. I think we can say both ways.
It's true. It's absolutely true. There is this invitation to find home, and I think Catholicism is the great witness that there is a home which is possible in this world, but only with the knowledge that there's an otherworldly home that awaits us. And the connection between this world and the other world is beautiful as well. Chesterton talks about heaven needs to have the green lamppost, that particularity, otherwise it won't really fully be heaven. There's a need to say there's something concrete and particular. The way that when you come around the corner and you say, there, I'm finally at home, especially after a long journey, there needs to be a sense of that as we're being brought into the halls of heaven. And this is one reason the saints who have already gone before us, they're already there. So we already know many of the inhabitants of heaven.
Yeah, the human heart is at home finds a home in Catholicism. It's very similar, and I think we can wrap with that. It's something similar that St. Augustine said, that the inquietum est cor meum, inquietum est cor meum, donec requiescat in te.
In te, Domine.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, and Pope Leo would be very happy that you just properly quoted St. Augustine. The most famous thing that Augustine said, so... That's a beautiful truth that we're all longing for that rest, and I think Blessed Saint Carlo Acutis speaks about we're all awaited in heaven, and there's a wonderful saint. I'm forgetting her name. She is so wonderful, Saint Bakita, that Pope Benedict speaks of in his Spe Salvi, and I think she says, when I come to heaven, and I've got my suitcases with me. She said, I'm going to tell St. Peter, you can close the door because I'm staying. Oh. I'm here to stay. I set my bags down, and you can close the door because I'm here to stay. That's where I belong. And that just that invitation that's made to each of us to live this life as a true and proper preparation for the homecoming. That's beautiful. That's the invitation that is made to all of us, and only in Mother Church do we find that great preparation. In having the Church for our mother, we learn to have God as our Father, and what a freeing thing that is to be the children of God. That's your children playing in the park. Yeah. To be truly free and liberated. This is the image of the playground with the walls around it. We can truly delight in every aspect because God is taking care of the rest. Yeah.
Chesterton said that Earth is a playground. So, amen.
Your children chose the better part.
Of course.
We just talked. Yeah. They delighted.
Yeah, I agree.
We delighted while we talked.
I agree. Thank you, Father.
Thank you.